inte hörs i livestream. We're live. I can start. Hi everyone and welcome to the graduation of our data engineer class. We're so we're so glad that everyone is here. And I can present myself shortly. My name is Sarah and I work here at SALT as a program manager, and I have followed these amazing students throughout the course, and I'm so impressed at what they have done the past months and very excited to see their final projects that they're going to present today. And we also have a live stream. Hello, YouTube. And Camilla, do you want to say a couple of words as well?
Yes, please. So yeah, I can just follow up on your first words. Welcome everybody. And this is a special day for us, and I know it's for you as well. We are super proud of you and all the hard work and the grit and everything that you have done during these weeks. And we think it's graduation is very special for us because it's not only, the final projects are not only an assignment. It's actually when everything that you learn during these weeks come together, and you can also apply it exactly in the same way as you do when you're out in a workspace. So congratulations to all of you for just sitting here. We are not giving out any diplomas yet, but it's a big milestone that you are here today. And when I joined SALT 1.5 years ago, it was because I wanted to be part of, making Sweden a tech nation and be part of having impact on the possibility for Sweden to become a tech nation. And you are also proof of that and are now, after this day, also contributing to that mission. So I think looking at you and on the presentations today is really what that mission looks like in real life, which is very cool. So we also have representatives from the industry here today, which also is a proof of that the skills that you now gained is very valuable, and I think you will have an amazing journey going forward.
I can continue.
You continue.
Yes, we will present the jury soon, but before that, I just want to talk about the agenda for today. So we're a couple of minutes late, but we will start with, after we have talked, we will start with the presentations, and we have 3 teams today that are going to present their final projects. So after they have done their presentation, we will bring in the jury, who will comment and maybe ask some questions, and then we will open up the stage for the audience if they have any questions. Maybe YouTube have any questions. We know that the student's instructor, Mikko, is in Finland right now, so he will probably make a comment. And then we have a break when all the 3 teams has presented, and then we will gather in the kitchen where we will have diplomas and do some mingle. So that's it.
And also announce a winner.
Yes.
So during the presentations, the jury will not only comment and maybe ask questions, we will also look at the best presentation of today's graduation ceremony. So in the kitchen, we will also announce the winner for today.
Important.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, perfect. So I'm part of the jury. I think you all know me, but now I'm the CEO of SALT. But I thought, why don't you come up here and just say hi to everyone, my jury friends.
Yes, as you can see, I'm quite sweaty. That's not because I'm nervous. I mean, that's your part. But because I've been running here from the subway to be in time, because I think it's very important that we are here as people that actually are working and representing and hiring a lot of people like you. Looking really forward to the presentation. I will be extra strict for the people I have interviewed already earlier, so be prepared. Otherwise, good luck.
Thank you. So I have just walked from across the floor here. but it has been a busy day and I have been jumping into one high intensity meeting to another the whole day. So we will continue with that. But very happy to be here and very happy to see you all. I have had some pleasure of listening to your presentations earlier. It was very good and looking forward to it. I would just like to mention data strategies is not my title at Nordea, just to be clear. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I think it's time to start. We will start with the first team. So Camilla will sit down at the jury chair, and I want to welcome up the first team. You are warm welcome, Lisha, Hamiat, Hakan, and Adam.
We just need a minute to connect.
Yeah.
Ska vi ha in till micken?
You need the mic for the live stream? Yeah, okay.
We have it, huh?
Yes. So, good afternoon, everybody. We're excited to be the first group to kick us off today. And let's just jump right into it. We'll give you a quick look at who we are and what we do. And then, let's see here. So, we are Adam, Hamiat, Hakan, and Lisha. We're SkyShield Analytics, and what we do is we're a data-driven consultancy firm that focuses on improving operational resilience in aviation. Our mission is to help airlines and transportation stakeholders and airports to proactively manage their risks when it comes to weather and disasters. Why does this matter, you might ask? Every delayed flight has financial, operational, reputational repercussions. SkyShield empowers decisions based on real-world data to avoid just that. Our flagship project focuses on predicting impact of weather on US flight operations and airports, so we can prepare high-risk routes and improve response strategies. So how exactly do we do this? We begin with the data. So we chose to use historical data from official sources during the years 2019 to 2024. And this is based on US domestic flights only. So our data sets are, first of all, weather data. This is from Meteostat. And this is obviously essential for understanding how weather might impact our flights and disruptions to flights. Next, we have incorporated disaster data also. And so with that, we can see the impact of extreme events like thunder and hailstorms, snowstorms on flight operations. Our primary flights data contains detailed information on flights, such as delays, cancellations, and airport-specific stats. Lastly, we also decided to integrate two additional supplementary data sets, which is one for airports, which shows us exactly where an airport is located, so longitude, latitude, and then we also have states in the US. So we have states and all the cities. And this is to be able to geospatially align weather data and flight for more complete picture of everything. So now,
Take care.
down.
Yes. So what were the goals? So we wanted to create a solution which is end-to-end, from collecting the data from the raw sources and clean it, transform it, and then be able to present it in a proper way that can give us insights, especially the impact of weather and natural disaster in the flight operations as a whole, and airports as well, origin airports and destination airports. So the goal was to help the potential customers and viewers to make some sort of predictive analysis, like when they are planning for the flights. So what is it that can affect the flight operations, for example, weather and natural disasters. So the dashboard itself, it gives us insights about flight operations, risk scores as compared to the airports, what sort of airports have a risk score which is like affected by the weather and natural disasters. Yes, so now we move to the next steps, how we started. We started with the brainstorming. We had an idea what is the project is all about, but the brainstorming was about what sort of data that we want to work on. For example, live data or historic data. So we went ahead to select historic data because it could give us more analysis and patterns how the flights were affected by weather and natural disaster. And for the next step, data exploration, as Lisha has already mentioned, we really wanted to collect the data from reliable resources that we could really trust on. So that is why we selected the data from the official sources when these flights and weather is concerned. So for the next step, project planning, so we used different tools. The one we used mainly was GitHub projects to assign ourselves tickets and divide the work between us within a group, so everybody has good understanding where we are with the project development and how we are dividing our work effectively. And for the resources, we work mostly with the Microsoft-based resources, Azure, Synapse Analytics for the whole pipeline and data warehousing, and Power BI for the dashboard, and few other resources, for example, Python for collecting weather data, and so on. Yes. So now I move to Amir.
Yes, our technical solutions. Our data model, or our map of our data, as you can see over here, is a so-called galaxy schema, which meant that we had 3 main tables, also known as fact tables, and then a couple of supporting tables known as dimension tables. And each of these tables either had a state name, state code, or an airport code, and we could use these to connect them together. And our data model was normalized, repeatable, and scalable, which meant that it was easy for us to add columns as we progressed and saw the need to.
Okay. Back to talk some more about data, specifically those data sets that I mentioned earlier. So what we downloaded from these sources were raw data. So they weren't really that useful. They were a bit messy. So we needed to clean them up. In data engineering, we like to talk about bronze, silver, and gold framework, which is part of a medallion architecture. So what we did was we took our raw data, or bronze data, and we inserted them into a tool called Azure Data Flow, where we transform the data in different manners, such as you can transfer or what's the word? Transform like a text or an integer to an actual date. So this can be 19th of October. Yeah. We also removed unnecessary columns and made sure that all data types were aligned with each other. Yeah, and after that, we actually put them into those tables that Hamjat mentioned earlier, that's in our data model, and how we then moved on to transforming from silver, which we had now, to gold. We'll hear more about from Adam.
All right, so now we are on the last technical solution, which is the SQL process. SQL is a programming language, and here we split it up into two. The first script basically created the total schema, and in that schema we have our fact tables, our dimension tables, and also our bridge tables, which actually connects the disaster to its closest airport or state. And all of these have their correct keys and connection, of course. And the second part, which is the second SQL file, that's where we loaded it onto the data model mentioned, the dimensional model. And now we go onto the analysis part.
Yes. So I'm going to start with a little bit of demonstration of our dashboard. I just need to. So yes, I need to have a mouse as well, but yeah. So the first analysis is actually quite interesting. It was about the overlap of weather with natural disaster and how combined can affect the flights and flight disruption, cancellation, and delayed minutes for specific flights, and which are the airports which are most into the risk zone whenever there is an overlap of different weather conditions and natural disaster. So for example, I can just take my mouse. Yes. So as we can see that we have a year, 2019. So it shows us the number of total flights, the flights that were affected, what is the average delay minute for the whole specific year. And down here, so we see the top 10 airports which were mostly affected by different weather conditions. And over here, we have something called weather threshold. So what we do here, that we combine all these different weather activities which can affect the flight operations as a whole. For example, snow, wind, and rain, and all these different weather conditions. So it is quite self-explanatory that we have different conditions over here. So we have a threshold which measure all these weather activities. So let's suppose I select 3, which is significant weather impact on the flights. So we could see the number here, that the number of flights affected, and apparently the number of average delayed flight in minutes as well. It changes with the threshold as well. So, but I want to find out how does it affect with the natural disaster, for example. So over here we have natural disaster type. So for example, if I select flood, so we can see that how flood and the weather threshold combined has affected the flight operations within the US domestic flight scenario. And over here, it shows all these different airports with the name of airport, coordinates, and how what are the average delayed minutes for that specific airport, and how is it affected as well. Yes. So we can move to.
I think we have some technical issues. We are not sharing the screen into YouTube.
All right, so we're
So
sharing this. All right.
Maybe if you could share the whole screen.
Yes, I can try to figure out how, because we apparently we have 2 screens at the moment, and we are sharing this. All right.
Sure.
Yes.
Either switch to the TV or just do a duplicate.
Yes. I'm gonna see. So I have to go back to. Can I just stop sharing and then reshare it again? see the screen properly because of the sunlight. Screen share with room, right?
Yeah. Select. Click entire screen and choose the other screen.
And
Screen two.
supposed to be this one, yeah?
Yes. Okay, now we can continue.
Don't worry, that is exactly what happens in every meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is as important as learning about data.
Excellent.
Yeah. You just have to click the screen. I cannot see properly from this side.
Press F11.
Double click on the bar up top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's just I
Good
have
thing we
really.
have so many experts here.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
Perfect. Right now it's okay. Yeah. Yes. So Alicia can continue with the next slide on the dashboard.
Yes, let's see. So, yeah, I need to stand here because otherwise I can't see the screen on this one. And I'll see if I can navigate it from here. This is a flights overview page. And here at the top, you can see specify timeline and you can see specify location. And there you have drop down. Basically, it drops down and you can choose years and you can choose state or city. Just in case you want to, compare Alabama in 2022 compared to 2023. And then here we have a general overview of how many flights there are in total, including canceled, diverted, and delayed flights. And this kind of shows the operational scale of the flights or aviation industry and what impact a weather disaster could have on flights. In this first graph here, we can see the number of flights over these years that I've been talking about or that we used in our data set. And we can clearly see a big dip here in 2020. And you guessed right, it's because of COVID-19. But since then, flights have steadily risen. And by 2024, we're almost back at the same number of flights as we were pre-pandemic levels. And then here we can see the monthly fluctuations of flights, and we can see that during spring break and during the summer months we have higher number of flights because of the amount of people that go on holiday at those points, and then there's a dip in May, probably because it's right in between those two peak seasons. Over here, we have a donut chart of the top 5 delays for flights. And if you wonder what they all mean, you can hover over this and you can see a definition of all of the delay reasons, as well as the average delay of each category in minutes. Yeah, and that's, I think, these 3 charts, and as well as this 10th one, which is the 10 busiest airports in the US, they are really vital because we can see then, understanding these patterns and monthly patterns, yearly patterns, and delays helps us with airports and airlines with staffing, runway scheduling, and stuff. And I think that it also is really important for us in our planning of potential disasters and weather disruptions. Yeah. Now, Hamid?
Yes, I will share some insights on weather and disaster impact on flights. So, poor weather condition remains one of the biggest challenges for flight operations, disrupting thousands of flights annually despite advances in technology and forecasting. Around 2% of all flights are cancelled, and out of these, 39% are due to poor weather conditions. And around 18% of all the flights are delayed, and about 3.7% are due to poor weather conditions. And yes, we can see here on the black line in the first graph a clear dip in 2020, which is naturally due to the pandemic and less flights when it comes to cancelled flights. But then as they started to pick up again, the cancelled flights went up. And this was also in 2021 and 2022 due to these years being quite disaster heavy in the US. In 2021, for example, there was a storm Uri that caused a lot of disruption in the flight operations. And in 2022, in December, there was a storm Elliott that caused over 10,000 cancelled or delayed flights over a period of just 1 week. Yes. And over here in the top 10 impacted states, we can see the states that are most impacted by natural disasters. And on the bottom chart here, we can see the states that have the highest delays on average, weather delays on average in minutes. And we can see that some of the states with the busiest airports, like Texas and California, are amongst the most disaster impacted overall. However, smaller states such as North Dakota and West Virginia have some of the highest delay rates on average. And Texas had a delay rate of 1.5% and California 0.4%, while North Dakota and West Virginia had of 2.5, respective 1.8%. And the numbers are not too far from each other. So why this would be an interesting topic to further research. An idea could be that the states like California and Texas, they're also impacted by not only winter storms and these kinds of disasters, but also summer and heat disasters, while the smaller states, as we can see down there, are more on the northern side and may be impacted by disasters that affect flights more. Or it could be that the bigger states just have better equipment for dealing with weather delays. That would be interesting to further research. And Adam is going to talk about geography and routes.
Yes, all right. So on to our next slide, which, as mentioned, is geographics and routes. So here we have kept it pretty easy to read, I hope. So we begin by choosing a date. Let's say we can keep this one, 2021, the first half year, so 6 months here. And to the right, we have these two visuals that are about routes. So the first one is most commonly cancelled flights routes. So it shows between one airport to the next. So we have a route here between George Bush International Houston Airport all the way to Dallas International Airport. We have a total of 109 cancelled flights between this time period. And then here we have total weather delays per flight, also in hours per route. And in the top we have Denver International Airport to Williston Airport with a total of 156 delays in hours. And our third bar chart here shows weather delays per airport, so it's not a route. And here in the top we have Dallas Fort Airport with a total of 3,500 delays hours. So do not fly from there if you can. And then we have our last, which is the map, and it shows pretty much what it already says, total disasters past state. So if you hover over the biggest bubble here, you see that it's the state of Texas with a total of 31,000 disasters in this time period. Yes. Tillbaka kanske till. And now we're trying to go back to the presentation part.
Yep.
All right, so here we have results and analysis. So for results, as mentioned before on the dashboards, we found some unexpected results. For example, weather only impacted about 3 to 4%, being for the reason for delay of flights. We thought that would be a much higher number, but reasons like carrier, which is airline, so staffing, maintenance, or anything to do with airline is a higher reason, which is about 30% big of a reason. So that makes about 10 times bigger of a reason, more than weather. And other reasons like, I think, aircraft, everything to do with aircraft. Some more results that size doesn't matter in airports. So as said, I think it was Amia before, smaller airports had longer delays when it comes to weather, maybe because of the resources, the equipment, something we would need to look further on. Yeah, on to the analysis part.
Yes, so our general analysis is that this dashboard helps support data-driven decisions for airports and airlines. And whether it's about adjusting operational seasonally or identifying high-risk routes. And we think that it could also help these companies improve their daily operations and have smarter and more proactive planning.
All right. And next we have challenges. We have had quite a few challenges, of course. The first one to begin with, choosing a suitable data set, which I think is something we have all had in all of our groups. So the challenge was whether to choose live data or historical data, where to find the best patterns to do analysis on, or career types, so transportation types, should we choose trucks, by car, by trains, by flights. And then we have another challenge, which is the tech tools we choose to work with for our pipeline. We worked with quite a lot of them. We tried with data flow, SQL scripts, and also notebooks. Another problem was the collaborative environments inside the Power BI, where we used the same workspace, all of us, and it was pretty important not to overwrite each other and have good communication. Yes, and I think that's all for challenges.
Yes, and finally, our reflections. So this project has been a great opportunity for us to apply many of the concepts that we have learned during this program. And whilst we had some challenges, like Adam mentioned, we also had a lot of learnings and important takeaways. And some of them were general insight and knowledge about the US when it comes to flights, disasters, and weather, which can perhaps help us with future plans. Also, the importance of fact-checking, as we discovered along the way that it's easy to get wrong calculations, so to check online and search. And also the value of working with an MVP, or minimum viable product, as it's called, as we started off quite strong with this when it came to planning and data modeling. However, it took longer than we anticipated to implement our data model in Power BI. And so a future takeaway is that to start with a smaller model and then refine it as we progress. And lastly, a future improvement for our project that we did not have time to implement is data quality and validation checks. And yeah, we feel like we learned a lot during this project, and that we feel like we have a stronger foundation for tackling future projects. Thank you very much for listening. So now, over to questions.
Wow. Thank you so much, team number 1. Amazing job. We'll bring in the jury right away to give a comment, or if you have questions. Do you want to start, Richard?
Yeah, I can start, and I have a lot of questions actually. But let's take some of the most relevant comments. At least I think what I think. You focus very much on weather and disaster, but I don't see any definitions. So that's something that we maybe should think about. For me, weather and disaster, it's a bit fluid. The roles in the project would be interesting to know. Who did what, and did you everything? Everybody did everything. I don't know. Would be also interesting.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I can answer that. No, we divided our roles from the beginning. For example, from the brainstorming and checking the data sources, it was all of us who were involved. And when it came to the technical solutions, so we decided, for example, Lisha and Hamia, they were like working on data cleaning and finding out what data types that are required. Adam and me, we worked on data modeling. So it was like quite collaborative, and we divided our work in that sort of manner.
Yeah. Good. And then one last remark. You focused a lot on weather and disaster, and then in the kind of conclusion, you kind of disqualify yourself by saying, okay, it's only a little impact compared to other things.
Yeah.
So if you are selling this as being the tool for weather and disaster impact, then it's good to leave that to the audience to discover.
Yeah.
But good presentation, I think, and
thank you.
Compliments on all your English as well. So very good.
Thank you. So you covered some very valid points, so I will not go back to them. You started off very well. I think this was very, when I saw the first slide, it sounded like a very good idea that, this is something before going on a flight, I can go out and check, what's the probability of my flight being delayed. But it didn't end up like that. So you have focused a lot on historic data and conclusions, but I couldn't get the answer to my question, which is in my head, of course, maybe not in your heads. What is the probability of my flight getting cancelled if it is raining, let's say, more than 50 mm during the day? That is the kind of analysis if you can do, and if you can do it, with historic data, if you can also incorporate future data, weather predictive data, and scheduled flights, and then show basically the future aspect of it, that would be very good.
Yeah, that was kind of our intention at the beginning when we were brainstorming everything, but as Samyat mentioned towards the end, we kind of had to go for our MVP solution, and we are very, we had a lot of ideas, but unfortunately.
I just like to add up one thing for the predictive analysis. In the end, because of the time constraint, but we tried a little bit with the machine learning and feed the data, historical data into it to get some sort of cancellation probability for specific routes. But we weren't able to get it done in time. So, but that was something that we worked on. I just wanted to
looking at all these slides, I think you have done a lot of work. It is very clear, lots of very good graphs, and you can basically drill down, etc. Technically, a very good setup there. It also felt a little bit that there was, the correlation between flight delays and weather patterns. You couldn't really establish it, even if it was a small percentage, but it was not very clear what incidents or what kind of disasters, also owing to the definition of disaster, what really impacts flight delays when it comes to weather. So that was one thing. The other, I think, just a small comment, probably an oversight on your part. 121022019 doesn't mean 19th October 2019 if you convert from text to date, right?
Oh, but it was kind of switched. Well, it was just
No,
an example. It can go
it
from
cannot go
whatever to-
anywhere from there. I tried. But overall, very good effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a great presentation. A lot of good things has been said, but since I'm not a data engineer myself, I will try to give another perspective on this. I think you presented it very well. You're very looking a lot out in the audience, which make me feel that it's easy to follow, which I think is important. I mean, as a CEO, I want to be able to take decisions, and I need people like you to present the data. And I thought, since I'm not into aviation, just by looking at the Power BI, I think it was a lot of good features that could help me in taking a lot of decisions. But also, as you said, I mean, there are some more layers into that we might need in order to take data-driven decisions. But overall, very good. I think you made it also, which I appreciate, easy to follow, since I'm not the technical expert here. I think you made it very clear, and you explained it in a very I don't know that word, but what is
Pedagogical.
pedagogical way, which is very important also when you present like this. So really good job. I have a question though. You described the challenges from the data and from the assignment perspective, but did you have any challenges in collaboration? And do you have any examples of how you solved that kind of challenge in the teamwork?
Yep.
Yes, as I mentioned a little bit, when we were implementing our data model, it took longer than we anticipated. And we were thinking, okay, how long should we put on this? So we decided, okay, let's give it one more day to resolve our data model. If it's not working the way we're wanting it to work, then we have to switch paths. So we tried to set up deadlines for solving different issues. And that way we could not get stuck and move on to the next step.
Okay, but did you have any challenges cooperation-wise, where you had different thoughts on things and you had to solve that as a team?
Yes, we had a lot of discussions, and I would say we worked in iterative way. Like it wasn't like we decided with one thing, but we end up doing more iteration on the same thing, because when we, for example, let's say data modeling, we decide one model, but when we explore the data on its, like the raw data, so it has some sort of limitations that we need to fix with the data model. So I'm not trying to be so technical with this, but it's just we had to work in an iterative way. Yes. So we decide one thing, but later on we went ahead and do a different thing. I would say the way we worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you get your answer to your question?
No, I didn't. But I'm done.
Because I was waiting for the juicy.
Yeah. It sounds like they didn't have any cooperation issues. It was very smooth. But thank you.
Okay, great. We actually need to go forward a bit. I know that Mikko has a comment. We will give you that one afterwards, actually. Okay. But is there any other comments in the audience that you want to? Yes, one question.
Well, yeah. So as you said, it's a bit surprising maybe that the weather is not impacting it as much. But do you think that maybe the reason for that is that they have already used professionals as yourself to close those gaps, and that there's very little left to handle weather?
Yeah. You want to take it? Yeah.
If I understood your question correctly, yes, I believe so. And we could see that with the delays that they were not as impactful. But with the cancellations, we had a much higher rate. So I think it's about the severity of the weather or the disaster. So I think when it comes to lower severity, they are better at handling it. But then when it becomes higher, then the cancellation rate is much more impactful.
We also attempted to analyze some of the airport statistics and kind of carrier statistics, but it was a part of it. So we tried to include both of them and how like airports handle maybe weather as well. And you can take a look at maybe how one airline maybe you shouldn't choose compared to another. But yeah, we missed a bit of that, but we had some on it.
Great, guys. It's great that we have a lot of questions. You will be here the rest of the night to answer them. But we have to go forward. But thank you so much, team number 1, for an amazing presentation. Give them an applaud. And we'll welcome up the next team. You want a break? Yeah, we can have like 3-minute break. Yeah, so 3-minute break and then team number 2 will present. Yeah.
Okay, welcome to our presentation. We're here today to talk about global energy and sustainability. I'm Hugo Sørensen, and I'm here with my colleagues Sarah Dogan and Rimiana Tesfaye. So the agenda of today is that first off, we're going to start off with some purpose and background to the whole project. Then we're going to go through the key questions for analysis. Then we're going to go through criteria for data collection and work process, and then end off with the presentation of the report. So as we all know, global warming has been a topic of discussion for the past 2 decades. Global warming is no longer a distant threat. Extreme weather and rising temperatures are here today. At the same time, we have war going on, which has created an energy crisis that shows us how dependent the world still is on fossil fuels like oil and gases. and renewable energy, otherwise known as sustainable energy, are presented as the long-term solution to this problem, but the real impact needs to be measured more thoroughly. By investigating this, we can see if green investments, what's going on?
We're sharing the wrong screen.
Are we not sharing the whole screen?
You are sharing the screen, but it's stuck on the global energy and sustainability page, the very first one.
Okay.
This one.
Yeah, it's stuck there.
Try sharing again the whole screen.
Yeah.
Ja, man.
Present.
It's not. You'll have to refresh the video ninja link.
Okay. So do I just a refresh?
Yeah, like the first.
Okay, now.
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay, nice. I'll just say what I said then again. Renewable energy, a sort of sustainable energy, has been presented as the long-term solution to global warming, but their real impact on emissions need to be measured more thoroughly. So by investigating this, we can see if green investments are not only symbolic, but truly effective in tackling the climate challenge. I'll now hand over the word to Rimana, who's going to take us through the key questions for our analysis.
Thank you, Hugo. And before we look at our questions, it's important that we explain what we mean by sustainable energy. Simply put, it's energy that comes from sources as sun, wind, and water. And it's basically sources that don't run out. In contrast to fossil fuels, their environmental impact is much lower, which makes them better for the climate and for our future energy needs. And over to our key questions. Through our project, we started with a set of key analytical questions to guide our research. And we have divided the questions into 5 different categories. And we have the global and continental emissions, so we wanted to see what the current levels are. And we have the emission trends, where we wanted to see which continents shows the smallest increases. We have the energy trade impact, where we wanted to look at how do energy exports compare. And we have the production and consumption, so what does the energy mix reveal to us? And then we have the renewable investments, so we wanted to look at do projects really reduce emissions and influence energy use. And based on these questions, we established criteria for selecting our data sources. We needed data that was open and transparent, and it covered all the countries all over the world, included CO2 emissions, consumption, production, and also import and export of energy. And this allowed us to make meaningful comparisons across countries and continents. And I'll now hand it over to Serhat, who will explain more how we approach these criteria and organize our data flow, workflow, sorry.
So we started off by taking an agile approach, dividing the task collaboratively, and we collaborated closely together step by step. Everyone in the team contributed equally, and the decisions we took were made collectively. Our main goal in the first week was that we needed to find data sets that were suited to our 2 main criteria, which were, the first one was that every data set needed to contain countries and years. So in the second week, we we collected the data as well and put it in our collective cloud workspace. And once they were there, we began cleaning it, transforming it, and combining it together. We faced a few challenges, and which were that we didn't have all the countries in all the data sets. Some smaller countries were not there. So when we saw that the smaller countries were not in the data sets, we just excluded them and went. Sorry, guys, just a little nervous, but yeah, okay. So we also missed certain years in the data sets. So we just combined it to one from the years from 1985 until 2023. On the third year, third week, sorry. In the third week, we focused on analyzing the clean data set. While most data was complete, we just had a few gaps. And after that, we added complementary data to fill the missing details we needed to ensure that the data was reliable and accurate. So this phase, the third phase was about preparing the data for deeper insights and making the analysis correct. So just to summarize what we did, we cleaned it, we transformed it, and prepared the data step by step, then moved into the analysis phase. So now over to Hugo.
Yes, so for our report, we thought it would be important to create a report that had a clear story from problem to solution. We also wanted to create a workspace where we could all make a separate analysis and then have them on the same page. Furthermore, we thought it would be interesting for you guys to read about the work we've been doing the past 3 weeks afterwards. So if you scan the QR code, you'll come to our website where we've published our report. The report contains 4 parts. The first part is emission by continents. So as we explained earlier, we gathered data from all the countries in the world, but in the first analysis, we've grouped them by continents to show the emission levels. The second part is production of electricity, where you can click on any country you want and see their specific electricity mix. Then we have the third and fourth part, which is investments and conclusion. So if we go to our website, here we can see all the data sources that we've used up on the top here. So if you click on them, you can also be able to read more about what data we have collected and where they come from. Otherwise, I'll hand over the word to Rimiana, who will take us through the emissions.
Yes, thank you. So in front of us, we have 2 different graphs. And the first one is showing us the global emissions and over the past decades. And we can see that there is 2 major gaps. And we have one in 2009 and one in 2020. And we discovered that it can be because of, in 2009, we have the financial crisis. And in 2020, we have the pandemic, COVID pandemic. And these events just shows us that how global distributions can temporarily reduce emissions. And in the second graph, we have the emissions by continent. And we can see that Asia accounts for the largest share of the emissions. And it's because it's driven by the industrial growth and population expansion. And we can also see that it covers for about 50% of the energy exports in fossil. We have Europe and North America that shows a long-term decline, while Africa and South America remain relatively low, reflecting smaller industrial bases and greater use of renewables. If we now go over to our next graph, here we have a graph that shows emissions per unit of energy. So here we calculated the ratio of energy consumption to emissions for each continent. And here we can see that, for example, South America performs best with the lowest emissions per unit. So the one that's highest is the one that has the least emission per consumption. And we also can see that Europe and North America are at moderate levels and they are gradually improving over time. And Asia and Africa have the highest emission per unit. But overall, this just gives us an indication of the differences in carbon intensity across the world. And just to explain it a bit more and make it more clearer, we have the electrical mix. And the reason behind the graph I showed you before is to show you, we wanted to show you the reasons behind these. And when we look at the energy mix and what the continents produce, For example, here we have fossil in red, which contains coal, oil, and gas. And we have nuclear in gray, which produces very low CO2, but depends on uranium, which creates radioactive waste. So it's not a renewable source. And we have green, which is renewable sources, and it contains sources from sun, solar, wind, and hydropower, which are naturally replenished and produce minimal emissions. And this chart just illustrates the current energy mix across the continents. And we see that Africa, Asia, and Oceania remain heavily dependent on fossil fuels, with renewables making up less than a quarter of their energy production. And Europe and North America show a more balanced mix thanks to both renewables and nuclear. And South America stands out as a clear leader in renewables, where they have for about 70% in new renewable energy sources. And Serhat is going to walk you through a bit more deeper into this.
So as we can see on the screen here, we have divided two graphs with each other. The first graph here shows the production rate through the whole world, and this is the emission rate from the whole world. As we can see, we're really reliable. We're reliable on producing energy by fossil fuel, but we are increasing year by year in the renewable section. We are still keeping a balanced production rate when it comes to nuclear power. So if we go maybe closer and look at Asia, for example, we can see that they are mainly producing their energy through fossil fuels, but they are getting better with time with the renewable rates. As we also can see, the emission rates goes up almost exactly as the production rate when it comes to fossil fuels. But if you look closer to Europe, for example, we can see here that the production with fossil fuels is increasing with the years, and from 2010s onwards, we are declining year by year. And we can also see that the emission rate is going down as well, and the renewable production is going upwards. And if you look at North America, for instance, we can see that fossil fuel is still something they are producing energy with a lot, but they have gone down from the 2010s. Before 2010s, they used coal as to produce energy, but now they're using mostly gas when it comes to fossil fuels and are investing a lot in renewable energy. And we can see the emission rates going down from the 2010s onwards. So to make a conclusion with this, the more fossil fuel they use, the more emission we let out, and the more renewable energy we use, the less emission we let out. So just to summarize, fossil fuel is bad and renewable energy is good, and we should keep investing in it and onwards. So now I'm going to pass the word to Hugo, who is going to speak about investments for different countries.
Yes, so if we look at the investments, the investment data that we achieved to collect is from 2020, which makes it a bit hard to see how the investments actually affected the emissions. But here on the map, we can see the green color shows you the countries that has invested the most. The red color shows you the countries that has invested the least. And the yellow color shows you the countries that are in the middle. We can see clearly here that North America and Europe are the two continents that are investing the most in sustainable energy. We can see that Africa and Asia are the two continents investing the least, and Oceania and South America are somewhere in the middle. Something interesting about this is that North America and Europe are also the ones that Sarah just mentioned are increasing their use of renewable energy whilst decreasing their use of fossil fuels. We can also see that United States and Germany are the two continents investing the most. And if you want to, you can see here if you press on it, or now it doesn't work. You can see what kind of investments they are making. But in order to make some kind of conclusion out of this, we grouped the countries into two groups. So the countries that invested the most versus the countries that invested the least. The green line here shows you the countries that invested the most, and you can clearly see that they are, since 2010, they're having a decrease in emissions. So this shows you the emissions, basically. And you can also see that the countries that has not invested are, they have a bit more unclear emission rate, whilst also actually increasing the past years. But what does this tell us? If I bring you back to the question we had at the start, whether investing in sustainable energy has an effect on emissions, the answer is a bit more complicated than saying yes or no. But we can say there's some key takeaways from this analysis. We can say that structural choices in energy systems and not temporary crises are probably the main drivers of long-term CO2 trajectories. We could also see from what Rimiana showed us, the country or the continent with the most clean energy use, South America, were also the continent that used the most, or they were reliant on using renewable energy within the country. And as Sarah showed us, we could see that the continents reducing their fossil fuel and increasing their renewable energy, they achieved they were able to reduce their emissions. But continents as China that increased their use of renewable energy, but at the same time did not slow down the use of fossil fuel, didn't actually achieve any reduction in emission. So the emission rate is heavily correlated with the fossil fuel use. So if you invest in renewable and phase out fossil fuels, you'll probably decrease your emissions. There are, however, of course, some limitations to this analysis. The data coverage is uneven across the countries. As Serhat said earlier, there are some countries that we needed to exclude from the analysis. And investments are only tracked since 2020, which makes it hard to draw any conclusions on how those investments could affect the country. So it would be interesting to see, for example, Germany and the United States. If you make this analysis in a few years, you could probably draw a bit more conclusion. The Power BI dashboard shows correlations and not causal relationships, so we can't be sure of anything really. And there's also other external factors, as for example, the 2015 Paris Agreement, which legally bonds the EU countries to actively reduce their emissions, which makes companies and internal organizations within the countries, they have to think about reducing their energy use. And other continents, as Asia and Africa, for example, they don't have any of these agreements. So to answer the questions, if investing in renewable energy affect emissions, then our data suggests that it does, but it will be more meaningful to look at this further in the future to draw a more actual conclusion. Yes.
Thank you for your attention.
Wow, thank you so much, team number 2. Amazing job. We'll bring in the jury again. They are writing their last comments. Maybe we can start with Camilla this time.
Yeah. No, but I will leave the data points to you. But great presentation. I will again comment on the presentation and your collaboration. So what I really liked about your presentation was that I thought it was quite crisp and clear and easy to follow in the beginning. And I appreciate that you, went through the background and how you have been working quite fast and crisp. What I used to say, I think it was on point in the beginning, and then you put more focus on the findings and the key takeaways, and I liked that. Good pace throughout the whole presentation. I also like the agenda, like I'm that kind of structured girl, so I like the agenda, that was very clear. And it's also, of course, an important topic that for me is very close to heart, so I really like the topic as well. You said in your presentation that all the decisions were made collectively. Yeah. So then I will ask the same question to this group. When you didn't think the same or had I mean, discussions in between. I understand from the presentation that in the end you found a common path and decided collectively. But did you have any challenges in the cooperation?
Yeah, of course we had. At the beginning at least, we argued a lot between each other. When someone in the group didn't agree, we tried to make our point why we should go this way. But until everybody was not on board, we didn't take the decision if it was good or bad. Let's say if Rimiana didn't agree with me, I try to make her understand my viewpoint. If she didn't, we just skipped that and went forward.
Okay. And
no, we ignored me. No, we ignored myself. So my idea was bad.
We discussed everything. Yeah.
So my follow-up question on that is then, because I totally get your key takeaways from the work that you have done. What has been your key takeaway when it comes to collaborating, working in a team that you will bring with you into your next workplace?
Should everybody each
No, one answer is enough. If anyone has a key takeaway.
I would say that everybody thinks in different ways, and we all three we are very ambitious. So we had so many different ideas, but it's important to listen and understand. So I think that we did it in a great way because we combined everybody's ideas at the end. I think we're all satisfied of how it turned out.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
Yes, it's important to discuss and listen to others. We discussed everything thoroughly. But I think it was great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, really good presentation. I liked it a lot.
Thank you. First of all, I would say very well done. The QR code works.
Nice.
I have seen it not working in much more professional settings, so that was good job. When it comes to the content, it felt a bit academic, sort of, that you have written a research paper that you are presenting. It wasn't really a problem and a solution as such. And then there was, the details in terms of the kind of data that you have prepared or how you have cleansed it or how you have, what kind of data model did you build. So all of that was missing, but maybe that was...
I think it was the point.
That's what I liked.
We wanted to adjust the presentation for non-technical.
Yeah, and then maybe discuss it afterwards.
If you have technical questions,
we can show you.
Okay. Good. So that was intentional. Then there was, with all of this, the conclusion that fossil fuels is bad, and the more fossil fuel you use, the more emissions it will be. I think in 2025 that would probably be clear to everyone, right?
Yeah.
So it would be much better to come up with some, the conclusion that the investments in renewable energy, they are working. But the world consumption on energy, it is increasing at even faster pace, which means we are not really able to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. That's a challenge we are facing these days, right? So that is underlying in this data, we could see that, but this is not what you could clearly describe as a conclusion from your presentation.
All right.
But overall, a very good effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. And the disadvantage as being last is that a lot of things already are said. But I think I'm pretty much in line with what you said. I think also it's a good presentation. It's definitely visually great. I mean, it looks really professional. I found it a little bit lazy when it comes to choosing continents as the biggest domainer. I think it would be interesting if you would have gone in a country like India or China or something like that and digged a little bit deeper. Okay.
You have the
I saw you have the headers, but it's not explained. I think it would be more interesting for your story. Go in and say, okay, it's poverty and it's a big population, big land mass, so that's why because comparing continents is a bit. I'm not sure. Like I said, lazy it feels. That said, I think you did a very good presentation. I like the contrast of your appearance and characters. So it was. I've been interviewing Hugo, and he did a very good job presenting. My bias said, okay, I didn't expect that. So sorry for that. Very well done. You guys felt a little bit off when Hugo sometimes is talking, and it's really hard also to stand beside somebody that is presenting. But it felt a little bit like okay. That you turned off a little bit. Okay, now it's not my turn. But when you were presenting, also very good. But look a little bit on that. It goes for the first group also, but it's a little bit the setting as well. Of course, in a business presentation, you probably would sit in the side of the room or something like that. So you're not background material there. Very good. One thing. What does we worked agile mean for you? It's one of the.
We started the day by discussing what we need to do today. We discussed everything. We divided every task between each other, and we followed each other on every step on the way because we worked closely by together. And let's say Hugo was working on something, for example, and we were just sitting there and follow along. So what Hugo did, we knew what Hugo did, and what I did, Hugo knew what I did, and so on and so on.
If I can, also, or moreover, actually, we kind of we made the, for example, with the data collection. We collected data, we analyzed it a bit, and then realized, okay, maybe we need to add some more data.
So
we adjusted the work.
With the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's fair enough. Why I'm asking you that is because agile is one of the most abused words in the community. So it means different things for everybody, and in the end it loses meaning. So be careful using it in a presentation as well. Right. But again, I think it was a very strong start with the definitions, with the questions, with everything. But you lost me a little bit along the way, and I think it was because you didn't go in the details that could bring out the things a little bit what the jury members also were into. But very good, well done and well presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, jury. Honest and tough. No, it's perfect. Thank you, team number 2. Do we have any questions from the audience or any comments? Nothing. Anything? Yeah, Daniel.
So I wrote down 2 questions, and we'll see if it's relevant to your work. I think you said that Asia contributes the most to emissions, correct? And then describe
over the decade.
And then describe the reason to be due to population growth and industrial expansion. Was that correct as well? Or yeah. So I was curious what led you to that conclusion.
I can show you. Well, we have our data sources, but we also basically read up on what could be the reasons for different stuff.
Yeah, I was curious since it didn't immediately seem like it was part of your work, so I was curious whether it was added.
Yeah, we searched up some additional sources just to get a bit more information behind these discoveries. That's why.
Great. Thank you so much, team number 2, and applaud again for amazing work. All right, now we have 1 team left, but we'll have 4 minutes break until 3:30. We'll go again, so team number 3 can prepare.
Okay, hello everybody, and I know you're all ready to celebrate, but before that, let's deep dive in the last project of this program, Diabetes in Scandinavia, presented by Henry Englund, Philip Cedermark, Erik Aronsson, and myself, Suher Hibo. Yes, so this project is about analyzing the impact of diabetes medicines in Scandinavia between the year 206 and 2020. We chose to talk about this project because it was based on the group interest and also because we could find good public data available online. So, to begin with, I want to shortly talk about the tool we've used to manage this project, and it's GitHub, Azure Synapse, Azure Virtual Machine, Azure Key Vault, and Power BI. And then let's give a look at our data sources. So as you see, our data sources comes from both international and national sources. Shit. Vad är det som buggar?
Streamen på YouTube, den funkar inte. Sorry, technical difficulties as always.
At least the problems are
Evenly distributed. It's for added realism to simulate the real workplace experience. Does that look fine?
Yeah.
Okej, ska jag börja om då?
Nej, men börja inte om. I think just kind of keep going from here.
Yes.
Oh, and hide this, yeah.
Well, our data sources come both from international and national sources. We combine population data and diabetes prevalence data from organizations like OECD, World Health Organization, with statistics data from causes of death and national data about medicines from the Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian authorities. So overall, this project is based on high-quality data that covers both people and health across Scandinavia. So this is our data sources, the data sets we had to deal with. As you see, we have a lot of columns to deal with, and they all came in different ways and different columns. Some of our sources had code indicators like the diabetes prevalence, and other had detailed breakdowns like year, sex, age group, and so on, other besides. So to make this data comparable, we had to decide what to focus on. So when we started looking to this data, we noticed that they all share something in common, like time, country, and ATC codes. And these key fields helped us to focus to bring a data model. So we choose to have the time field to track change over time, the country codes to separate Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, and then the ATC code so we know exactly which drug we're talking about. So by taking out these key fields, we could narrow it down to three key fields. And that's how we built our data model, the schema. This schema is a galaxy schema. It has two fact tables and dimensions that share it in common. We have our main fact table, the medicine fact table, that contains all our ATC, so to specify our drugs. And then we have the other fact table. It's a country fact table, and it has the population and the numbers. These two are connected to the same dimensions tables, and those tables are our key fields we focused on, those I was talking about earlier. And yeah, this schema can allow us to explore how the medicine use of medicine growed or developed over the time, but it also can help us to see the differences in the between the difference in Scandinavia and the mentioned countries. And now I'll leave word to my colleague Eric, who will walk you through the implementation.
Thank you, Suhair. So on to our implementation, starting off with a very brief overview of our data flow and how it works. So this would be the typical journey that data goes through in our pipeline. First, we fetch data from multiple different online sources. We then store it in a folder called staging in our ADLS, which is a cloud storage service in Azure. At this stage, the data is still entirely in its original formats. Next, we standardize the data so that it follows the same structure. For example, medicine data from different countries might use different column names and formats. We then clean and transform it so that all of the medicine data ends up with the same columns. This makes it much easier to later merge and join them all together. The standardized data is then stored in another folder in our ADLS called standardized. The last step of our pipeline is then to join these standardized data sets together into fact and dimension tables. And these are then stored in our SQL pool and connected to our Power BI. And from there, we can create reports and also do our analysis. Since our data came from many different sources, we have had to work with many different formats, such as XML, CSV, and JSON. Some websites had APIs that we could use, while others only allowed for file downloads. Our approach was always to keep it simple and reliable, choosing the easiest way to get the raw data into Synapse. A good example of this would be the Sweden medicine data. At first, we used the official API to get the data into Synapse. It worked, but the script we used was quite complex. So we instead opted for another way, which was to use a copy activity to fetch the zip files into our Synapse, and then running a much shorter script compared to the original one to unzip the files and only keep the data that we actually needed. This turned out to be not only easier, but also felt like a much more reliable way to do it. We also followed clear naming conventions. All raw data always goes into the staging folder in ADLS, so we know exactly where everything belongs. It is also important to note that in this copy step, we do not actually transform the data at all. All of the transformations of our data is done in later steps of our pipeline. Once the raw data is in staging, we move on to standardization. The goal here is to make sure that data from different sources can be compared and also combined without any problems. We made sure that every standardized table has the same format and column structure. For example, in medicine data, one column would contain the ATC code, another the amount of users, another the year, and so on. And by keeping this consistent, we can easily join and merge these data sets together in later stages of our pipeline. We also carefully validated the results to avoid making any sorts of mistakes, making sure no rows were lost, duplicated, or incorrectly created. This way we kept the data accurate and trustworthy, as it aligns with the actual source data. And finally, we store all of these standardized data in Parquet format in our ADLS. And here you can see an example of how the raw data looks compared to after standardization. In this case, it's the Norway dataset before and after standardization. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to my colleague Philip, who will walk you through the merge and join step of our pipeline.
Yes, thank you very much, Erik. And like mentioned, I'll be going over the kind of final step in our data lifecycle, or the final step before we're ready to start actually working with the data, which is joining, merging, and preparing the data for analysis. At this point, we have all of our data. They are all cleaned and standardized, but there's still just a bunch of files, so we're not able to actually work with them yet. And this is the part where we take all of these files, we kind of join and condense everything down into tables according to our schema design that you saw a bit earlier, and store them into our SQL pool, which is where we'll be able to do our actual analysis and actually work with the data. This is just kind of a little visualization, taking all of our files, and this includes, like mentioned, joining all of our different medicine data from the different countries together to create a more cohesive and easily interpretable model, both for the people working with it, but also for practical use. With this, we are almost ready to show off our findings and our report. But before I do want to touch on a bit of an outlier source that we had. We had to be a bit creative in how we approached it, and caused some initial problems, and that's why we kind of want to highlight it especially. And that is the Norwegian medicine data, or the data from the Norwegian Public Health Institute. At first glance, the data is very similar to both the Swedish and the Danish medicine data. All of these sources or websites host the data in the form of a kind of tool that you use to check in the various fields and columns you want. The website generates a report, and from there you're able to either construct a API link that you can call to access this data, or in the case of the Swedish medicine data, able to download the source files that the tool relies on. What made the Norwegian medicine data stand out is that there was none of these options available. There wasn't an option for an API, there wasn't an option to download any source files, and due to the report itself being timed or based on a kind of a session cookie, it means that any given report isn't always accessible, and it needs some kind of human element in order to access. But we still wanted this part of the pipeline, or this part of the gathering process, to be automated and to be able to integrate it in our pipeline. And so we've had to do a bit of a different approach with this specifically. And after some brainstorming and the go-ahead to create some extra resources, we have something that looks a bit like this, and I'll explain this, don't worry. What we have for this one specifically is a Azure virtual machine running inside of our cloud environment. And the virtual machine is the thing that's going to be allowing us to actually automate this part. It contains two scripts, first of which is a Selenium script. Selenium is a program or a package. There are a few ways to implement it, but it allows you to, via code, interact with websites without the human element. So instead of me having to manually visit the website, generate the report, save it to my local computer, and then move it into our cloud storage, Selenium does all of that for us. And from there we have another script in Python, making use of the Azure SDK, allowing it to communicate with cloud resources, and move the report from the virtual machine into our cloud environment. We've also coupled this with a cron job. This allows the script to run automatically, and so despite not being technically part of our pipeline in Synapse, this part of the process is still automated and updates regularly. And with that, we're not ready, sorry. This is kind of a short technical demo just to kind of demonstrate what the Selenium script would be doing. Keep in mind that when this is run in the virtual machine, none of this would be visible. There isn't any kind of graphical interface in the virtual machine. This is just to kind of simulate what the script actually does in order to generate the report and actually save it. And with that, we are ready to start moving on to our final product. So I'll leave word to our final colleague, Henry, who will be taking over and showing you our report.
Thank you, Philip. Now, you're all probably at the edge of your seats right now, waiting for the Power BI report. But before that, I just want to say a few words about the categorization of our data. More specifically, the classifications of medicines. So as we have mentioned earlier, the medicine data contains something that is called an ATC code. And an ATC code is kind of just a standardized way of classifying different medicines. The code is incremental, so you have it in 5 different levels. So in other words, you can kind of derive the less complex levels from the more complex levels. So firstly, the medicines are divided into medicine types. Here we give them names that you would like normally hear when talking about diabetes medicine. So for example, DPP-4, GLP-1, etc. And then we divide these into 2 groups, new and old. Now, new are, like the name implies, new types of medicine, so recently introduced to the market, or relatively recently, while old types of medicines have been around for a while. And with that said, I will pop into Power BI and show you guys around. So, perhaps the most interesting chart here is the combined line and bar chart. So it's this chart right here. Here you have the new medicine user share over time. So this is the share of medicine users that are using new types of medicines. And then you have the mortality rate. And the mortality rate is calculated by taking the number of people who die from diabetes-related complications and dividing that by the number of people who have diabetes in the specific area and time period. We also have in the cards above the new medicine user share and mortality rate CAGR. Now, for those of you who don't know, CAGR, or compound annual growth rate, is kind of the mean or median or average growth per year if you take into account the compounding effect. Down to the right, you have the mortality rate and new medicine correlation. This is kind of another way to say the same thing, but you can see that there is some sort of correlation between the mortality rate and the new medicine users. You also have the usage of medicine types over time. There you can see the darker shades are new types of medicines, and they are taking market share over time. You can also, if you please, filter by country. So for example, if I click Sweden, then nothing happens. Maybe it's a good idea to just refresh the page. Yes, so this is what's supposed to happen. You can take a closer look at Sweden. An interesting observation is that if we look at the the Danish data, we can see that the mortality rate is actually going up over time. Now, why this is hard to say based on our analysis. We would need a deeper analysis and perhaps some more data to actually find out what is going on. It is, of course, possible that we have accidentally found out that new types of diabetes medicines are more lethal to Danish diabetics, but I would think probably not. Then we have the yearly deep dive. Here you can click around individual years and have a look at the distribution of users between old and new medicines and medicine types, and also the ATC level 5, so the most granular drug type. Lastly, we have the medicine deep dive. Here you can take a look at individual medicines. Right now, for example, I have the insulin clicked, so you can see that the users of insulin is going up over time, but the share of users is going down. And in this case, insulin is classified as an old type of medicine. You also, if you please, can have a look at the constituent parts of the medicine type. So this is also the ATC level 5. Click around and see what is actually going on. And that is it for the demo. So I will pop back into the presentation and say a few words about limitations and possible improvements. So to begin with, age and sex is kind of commonly prevalent in the data set. So there is age and sex dimensions. We couldn't really include those in the analysis at this point. Age, because the different data sets kind of define the age ranges in different ways. So they use different age ranges. Now, credit to Philip, who actually came with the idea earlier today that you could possibly take the more granular age ranges and put them in the less granular, and in that way, do some sort of comparable analysis. So that is definitely a future improvement. We also have sex, which is not actually present in all the data sets. So this would need some more searching to find complementary data. We also have no common denominator between all 3 countries when measuring actual dispensed medicine. And this is because there are 2 main ways of actually measuring this. So one is the dispensed daily dosage, and the other is units. Now, dispensed daily dosage, like the name implies, is the dosage that a patient would take during a day and then counted, while the units is the actual carton of medicine that you will get over the counter at the pharmacy. And then we have the diabetes prevalence data, and this is within a pretty broad confidence interval. So the diabetes prevalence data is the share of people who have diabetes. Now, for example, it can be between 2 and 7%, and within that range is 95% accuracy, but it's still a pretty big range. And this is kind of important because this is the measure that we actually calculate the number of people who have diabetes from, and this is commonly occurring in the analysis in the Power BI report. Lastly, we have some statistical considerations, and perhaps the biggest risk here is the risk of confounding variables. Now, confounding variables are variables that are not explicitly present in the data, so they're not actually there, but they could possibly have an effect on the outcome on the other measures. And a possible, and I would say probable example of this would be the general diabetes detection and treatment, and also the general health of the population. Now, this could have an effect on the mortality rate without having anything actually to do with the usage of new diabetes medicine types. And we have also included a chart here just to visualize this, so you can see that the life expectancy over time is steadily rising for all 3 Scandinavian countries. And with that said, we open up for questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, team number 3. Amazing job. Are you ready to get grilled by the jury? We'll start maybe with you now.
Thank you. Well, they say be careful what you wish for. So I complained a little bit about missing technical details, and you were like, okay, I got you. This was an interesting presentation, I would say. It wasn't, from a technical perspective, you have shown a lot of detail how you did the work. That is all very good, but it didn't really have, the business outcome or some value that you could show and we could discuss at length. So lots of time spent on technical details, and it was a bit slow from that perspective. It felt like, it was difficult to concentrate because, you stayed for a long time on a single slide and discussing topics in such a detail that they wouldn't matter to us. So that is one feedback. I think it is important to cover technicalities, but not so much in detail. Then when you use graphs, etc., it would be very good to have distinct colors so that, some people, maybe there could be some people in the audience who have partial color blindness or something. So they can't be shades of the same color in showing graphs on different countries, for example. So that is what I didn't like. Then again, from my perspective, I didn't really see much coming out of it. The data itself, it was probably not having good correlation to sort of actually show something out of it. So maybe that is what forced you to focus more on technical aspects and less on actually what comes out of the data. But having said that, I will still say that you have done a lot of good work in this, and that shows in the level of depth that you have gone on the technical side of it. So it is a lot of good work that you have done, and it is not going to waste. This will teach you a lot. But when you are presenting to, sort of mixed stakeholders, then it is better also to focus more on things that everyone understands and more on business side of it and less on technical. Thanks.
Thank you. You go.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of the same feedback. I think that you were definitely the most nerdy, of course, and that speaks to nerdy me. But manager me, like is sitting next to me, the guy, yeah. It is a bit, but you had good examples and you picked them out, and during the presentation, all of you showed awareness of, okay, we know that this is a bit boring and a bit slow and so on. So why present it anyway then this way? So try to compile. I saw the presentation was 24 slides. That's way too much for a 15 minutes presentation. So, but okay, you've heard that all now. So. That's fine. Like I said, I thought this was the most interesting presentation in potential and not in the bottom. Let me say it that way. So not potential. You actually created or realized the potential. So, but focus on the examples that you had. I think the Norwegian example that, okay, you choose another approach. You were creative with Selenium and that kind of things. Great. We want to see that. I mean. In potential employees as well, so that's good. What else did I write? Yeah, also, if you can't explain something like the Danish death rate, don't present it. So, I mean, every vendor or every business is hiding those kind of things. So, do that when you're out there. I feel. I'm a bit too critical for what it actually is, but I'm really curious why this subject.
Does anyone want to? Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I can answer, although I don't know if I have a clear answer. I mean, our hand was forced, of course, with the medicine or vaccination subject, which was what we were handed, and choosing the diabetic data was just kind of like Sohair said in the beginning, the actual availability of the data. We wanted to do a project with good data, and we found good data. So I think the answer is
that was a little bit the answer that I expected. But
yeah, that is the answer. Yeah.
But I think in a way you created the path that you have taken. So in by choosing this subject and these data sets. So be aware of that also. That's the major decision in the beginning basically already is kind of putting this together. So I hope that makes sense if I say that. But again, I think it was well presented, and you made it a little bit hard for Sohair because she was here already like 10 minutes before everybody was in the room. So that's one tip, that okay, don't go to your presentation stand if the room is not ready. Just mingle and pretend you're not nervous and so on. Otherwise, if you stand there for 5 minutes or even 2 minutes, you build up your tension in yourself and comfortable. But that goes for every presenter, even the most comfortable one. So that's a little tip to everyone, actually. Good. Well done.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'll follow along. I mean, I think many good things have been said. Great presentation. Thank you. For me, it was, of course, super technical and hard to follow because I'm not the technical person in the room. So that's why I also understand why you thought it was the best presentation. I mean, we all have different perspective, and you touched on that, Richard, also, that I think that's also something that you need to bring with you in the future, that who are the stakeholders in the room, who are we presenting to. So I think that was really good input. But personally, diabetes is very close to my heart because I have a friend who got a child now with diabetes. So I was on the same track as you, Richard. I was missing a story and a why behind this topic. And now we got the answer to why you chose it. But that's something that I had like as a question for you. Like, it would have been nice to hear, like, why is this important to look at this kind of data? Or so that is just something you can bring with you, because it's a very important topic that is on many people's heads right now because it's also increases. So that's some feedback. But back to the technical part, I think the slide where you had the data flow from source to BI, that was a slide that I really liked, since that was some slide that I could follow and really understand. I think you explained it very well, like what every step mean for someone who has not been working with data at all. That was very, I mean, for me, even I could grasp the technical part of that. So that was really good. So yeah, I think, I mean, good presentation. I would also like to see a bit more personality from the presenter and a story behind the topic. And I have one question. Like, what kind of institution or businesses would most benefit from your analysis? I couldn't really get that. Like, what do you think, like in terms of business value and the work you've done? What do you think? Like, what kind of organization would benefit most of your data findings?
I think, and this may not be an entirely perfect answer,
No,
because
that's okay.
in the end, and I think that's kind of, and I want to kind of touch on this as well, one of the reasons that this presentation is a bit more technical is because, like, in our minds at least, we are people who have been studying a program and we want to be able to show what we're actually doing.
Yes.
And so we've treated this a bit more as a technical demonstration, maybe not to the greatest effect. But with that said, I think due to the general topic, analyzing different types of medicines, seeing which ones seeing if there's any correlation between newer and older types. This would be most probably aimed towards pharmaceutical companies, seeing what types of medicines are available, seeing if maybe, like, is there any correlation between the newer, more proven medicines, or if they're the newer ones that are starting to gain traction or showing some positive results.
Yeah.
And I think that would probably be what this aims for.
Perfect. Thank you. Great. Good job, everyone. Thank you so much. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Jerry. Do we have any questions from the audience? Perhaps, yes.
Thank you. I think it was a very nice presentation, fun to follow, and actually I think it was good to bring out the Danish example, maybe, just so we know that there is some non-consistency. And I think the result was pretty clear, so people survive better over time, and it's interesting with that confounding variable discussion. So I wonder then, so perhaps it's just surviving overall that's getting better, but could it be other things? Could it be that just medications get better over time, or do you have any other? It feels like it could be a lot of interesting things affecting this.
Do you mean other confounding variables, or do you mean other?
Perhaps maybe not other confounding variables, but maybe other ideas for what the confounding variable could be.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one example I think could be the age variable, which we didn't include in the analysis now. So there could be a difference in the ages of people who take different medications, for example. So if you have very old people who take a certain type of medication, then probably their mortality rate is not as good as people who are a bit younger. So that is another example. I think there are a lot of good examples about confounding variables, because our data is, quite thin in a way. Yeah.
Thank you for that. All right. Thank you, team number 3. We give them an applaud. And you can go through. And there was the 3 teams. Very good job, everyone. We're so proud of you all. And thank you so much to the jury for joining us, giving very insightful thoughts and constructive feedback. Amazing. now we the jury will have a talk together and evaluate the 3 teams, and then we will announce a winner. And maybe, I think, do you need 10 minutes perhaps for that? We will go into the kitchen, but we will end this live stream right now. So we thank YouTube for listening, and see you next time. Bye, YouTube. And we will see each other. We will